Hello and welcome to ABM Day 2022. We are live. So happy to be here with you today. I'm Jakob Löwenbrand. I'm the Managing Director of Brightvision, and we're looking forward to hosting a really full and hopefully very insightful afternoon around account-based marketing. So with that, very, very happy to have you with us. And I will not be the only host here today. At my side, I have my colleague Emma with me.
Exactly. Hi, everyone. My name is Emma, and I work as digital marketing product lead here at Brightvision. So it's great to be here. I will be the sidekick during today's event. So I'll be both mentioning all the tech stuff on the back end, as well as facilitating the Q&A sessions that we're going to have in the end of every speaking slot.
Absolutely. And we have a lot of things going on here today. A little bit of what you can expect here today is that we will talk about account-based marketing from many different perspectives. And as you know, since we all are sales and marketing professionals here joining in today, we have a lot of things on our plates. The new trends, new tools, new best practices. We have other players in our industries or even competitors that are maybe ahead of us, or how to refer to what other things are doing and going on and so forth. And we're hoping that today can be one of these times where you can sit back and relax and get a few ideas, maybe get you a little bit ahead of where you've been before, and maybe you can on the management meeting on Monday present a few new initiatives or ideas that you maybe have picked up on today from some of the speakers. So that's what we're hoping for. And today's speakers, we have a lineup here where we're starting out with Leanne Chescoe, who's the Senior Manager Field Marketing at Demandbase, ABM software that's specialized in this area. Then we also have a colleague of mine, Jakob Hammar, who's digital strategist and ABM expert here at Brightvision. Then we have Alisha Lyndon, who's the founder and CEO of a consulting company who just recently merged with ITSMA, which we have had as speakers here at ABM Day previously. So we're really happy to have Alisha with us as well. Then we have Arlyn Knox, who's Senior Vice President Global Marketing at Yonder, a tech company that is really, really good at doing ABM and have a lot of great insights, what we can learn from their best practices and successes in marketing. And then I will also close today with a talk as well, where we base some experiences from what we have learned here at Brightvision around ABM and so forth. So with that, I hope we will have a great session together today. And you can find the detailed handout up in the left there, if you see where it says handouts. To the right, sorry, up to the right. And you can see all the speeches there that we have the name of the speeches as well, not only the speakers. And just a short 2-minute intro to Brightvision. So we are putting this together. We are Brightvision. We're an agency for B2B tech brands that's working with European companies, basically, or American or Asian companies that wants to go to Europe. And we love tech brands. And we have a reason to do that. Our background, we're almost around for 22, 23 years since I started the agency. We have done a lot of campaigns and helped a lot of tech companies, both from startups all the way up to the big global, huge companies like Microsoft, IBM, Oracle, etc., and have been working with a lot of clients all the way between. And the reason is we're so passionate about technology and innovation. And we believe truly that the problems that we would discuss in our societies, no matter where you're from, we discuss at the evening news large and important challenges that we have in our world today in order to be able to sustain how to live good lives in the future as well. I believe, and we at Brightvision believe, that technology has a very key role in this play, how to solve them. We can see that technology brings prosperity to poor nations by using ed tech, for example. We can see green tech, clean tech springing up in important areas, addressing problems we haven't been able to solve before. And there's a lot of things going on in the energy sector that might solve the energy problems that we are facing today and are a bit worried about, of course, for the upcoming winter. So technology and innovation will be and must be an important part of this. And that's why we're so important about helping tech brands who will represent innovations and technology that can address those challenges. And that's why we aspire to be the largest and, of course, the most trusted full funnel marketing partner for tech brands who wants to push their innovations to customers and, by hench, improving the society and overall life. And we're on a mission to deliver growth for tech brands, and we're in the business to accelerate the spread of technology innovation, just because all the things I said. So that's a little bit what we aspire to do and what we're around for, and the purpose of our business, so to say. And here are a few examples of clients we work with, all the way from Siemens and the really big ones to startups and tech companies, both in software, SaaS, and as well as product-led B2B tech as well. We do a lot of different services. We are a full funnel agency, meaning that we can do all kinds of marketing activities at the top of the funnel, attracting awareness leads, MQLs, etc., all the way down to outsourced inside sales team that actually close and pitch solutions and close deals and send contracts and so forth. So we can help clients run a part of the funnel or a full funnel. And we have tactics like teleprospecting and inside sales, of course. That's one of our biggest business units. But our digital teams in paid media, inbound marketing, content marketing, etc., are really fast growing as well and becoming almost as big in the short future as well. So that's what we do. If you're looking for more content after this day, we will be happy also to just mention here in the beginning that we at Brightvision have had a podcast for almost 3 years now, and we are actually celebrating our 100th episode pretty soon. And we have a lot of great episodes in there. Not that I'm great as a host, but we have great guests that have given us so much insights, best practices. As for example, when I had an opportunity to talk to Jeffrey Moore, one of my personal heroes who wrote Crossing the Chasm and a number of very important marketing books for tech companies. And we had a great chat 30 years later after he wrote that book. We had Tony Hughes, we have Frank Rose, Justin Blackman, Leanne Chescoe, for example. We had a great session together half a year ago, which is one of our opening speaker, the opening speaker here today. So if you have more time, more interest into listening to B2B marketing tips and tricks for tech companies especially, check out our podcast. Emma, what are we going to do now?
Now we're gonna have a little poll, interactive poll, to get everyone a bit warmed up before we let our first speakers onto the virtual stage. So we thought we'd use the Mentimeter.com to create a word cloud together on different challenges that you're facing in ABM space today. So what you can do is to use your phone and scan the QR code that you see there in the middle of the screen. And in case you don't have your phone nearby, you can go onto the link directly. So either way is fine. And there's no need to sign up to the page or anything. So the question will be right there. So let's wait a few more seconds for people to scan the code. And now I think we're ready. So let's go on to Mentimeter.com and see what you guys are facing today, what kind of challenges. All right, biggest ABM challenges.
Starting up ABM, yeah. People, finding time. Knowledge, that is something we hope to address today. Maybe we can grow your knowledge around ABM this afternoon. Budget management, scaling up campaigns, scaling up organizations, that's an important problem.
Personalized content, definitely something that we will touch upon later on today as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. Interesting to see and get these insights from you guys.
Finding good channels. That's a very interesting question as well. What channels should we communicate in? Commitment, resources, content, team and talent. Measure effect. That's an interesting topic as well. I hope we will touch upon that this afternoon as well, because that's what every marketer is struggling with. How to show your CFO that your campaigns is actually driving revenue at the end of the day. Very interesting. Exactly. Integration in HubSpot. They're very, very tactical. Maybe we can see if we can get that in somewhere.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. I think this will go on for a long time, but it was very interesting to see all the answers. So thank you for participating in this poll.
Awesome. Right. Maybe we can come back and look at it when it's finished later this afternoon. If
definitely. Yeah. All right. Thanks. Let's move on to the next slide, Jakob.
Absolutely.
So let's see. Yes, just a second there. There we go.
Absolutely. And that's a small offer for everybody who's in here today. We'll have here at Brightvision, one of our ABM experts can have a ABM deep dive where we will analyze and give feedback on your ABM setup or ABM campaigns or whatever ABM you want to discuss, outsourced SDR teams for ABM department, for example, or whatever angle you would like some feedback on. We have a 90-minute session for free with one of our experts. That is not only us pitching our services, but actually us understanding your challenges and giving our feedback, and also sending over a deck with the feedback on afterwards. So it's not a huge workshop, but it's highly valuable, we hope, to get a second opinion from somebody else who might have worked with many different campaigns and companies. So sign up for the deep dive if and when you're interested in getting external feedback on your programs or your challenges or questions you have around these areas. Okay.
All right. So some short info and giveaway information before we get started. So the next 2 hours approximately, we will get to listen to 5 presentations. Every session will be 25 minutes, and in the end, we will have a Q&A. So feel free to drop your questions that you have for the speakers at any time, and then I will bring them up to every speaker towards the end. And also for this event, we introduced some giveaways. So for the 3 most active and engaged attendees, we'll get to choose between either a portable charger or a thermos.
Ooh.
And we will announce this later on after the event who will get these wins and giveaways.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, I really like the thermos, even though I'm a bit biased. It's working really well when you watch your kids' soccer games.
Yeah.
So, okay, then it's time to go. And it's time for our first speaker, who is Leanne Chescoe. And I have introduced Leanne several times, and I'm happy to introduce her again here at our ABM Day, because she has been a guest at other events previously. But she is, for those of you who haven't come across Leanne yet, she is the marketing leader and have been 5 years in the digital marketing space. And she will share how account intelligence can improve your go-to-market strategy. She will unveil how to spot in-market opportunities sooner, progress them faster, and hit your pipeline goals every quarter. So without further ado, we welcome you, Leanne, to our virtual stage here at ABM Day. So let's go ahead.
Great. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay.
We hear you. Thank you so much.
And thanks for having me back at your ABM Day. I'm so excited to be here. I can't quite believe it's been over a year ago since the last one. I don't know where the time's gone. And thanks for everybody to answering that first poll question as well. Just really good to see all your responses and just get a bit of a pulse check on kind of where everyone's at with their strategy. And there was a couple of key things that really stood out to me around budget, strategy, technology, not knowing who to target. So I hope to share some of that insight with you today. And thanks for the intro, Jakob. As he mentioned, I'm Leanne Chescoe. I head up EMEA marketing at Demandbase. I've been here just over 6 years. For those of you that don't know Demandbase, we're all about smarter go-to-market, and our solutions really do unite sales and marketing teams around rich, reliable account intelligence. And that's activated wherever you interact with your customers, whether that's through advertising, through account-based experience, sales, and your system. And our technology allows those revenue teams to spot opportunities earlier, engage them more intelligently, and close deals faster. And a huge part of any ABM strategy is the data. So I want to spend some time talking about how to use that to effectively drive revenue growth. And I think the reality for lots of B2B organizations out there today is that sales and marketing teams just don't have insight into who to target. They're missing lots of key opportunities, and the accounts that are in their pipeline are not a good fit for their business because they're not getting that insight into who's in market, who's showing those active buying signals right now. And that results in poor sales and marketing alignment, lower order values, and longer sales cycles because it's those organizations that aren't a good fit. It just is a longer sales cycle because you're trying to prove the solution to that business. And one of the main kind of reasons for this is that the buyer's journey is complex, it's anonymous, and it's almost 100% digital now as well. And so we as marketers and also as sellers need to be able to see those early buying signals. So right around this kind of initial kind of research stage to really determine what accounts are showing those signs of being in market and being able to prioritize those accounts for sales and marketing outreach. We can no longer wait for somebody to get to that form fill stage. And as you can see, this form fill, hand raise, demo request, they are about 2/3 of the way down the buying journey. Once they've got to that stage, it's pretty late to engage. They've done a lot of research, they formed a lot of opinions, and they're most likely already engaging with our competitors. So how do we overcome this challenge? So the first step, and I'll kind of set out kind of 7 steps really to help with this, is removing the guesswork and discovering those in-market accounts. And this is really where technology can help do this. And it can help really turn on the lights to see all of that anonymous, data and account engagement, what people are doing on and off our website. So firstly, to help us uncover those good fit accounts that match our ideal customer profile. We know they're a good fit for our business. They're showing intent for our solutions, but they're not currently in our CRM. So that could be kind of one way that technology could be really helpful. Another way is actually understanding that in-market intent and engagement and really kind of drilling down and helping us to prioritize what accounts to go after. Now, this is hugely important for a couple of reasons. The first is that we can segment by engagement and we can send those most engaged accounts to sales for follow-up. It's really important that we're not sending those accounts too early. Perhaps, if it's one person within an account, for example, that's downloaded a white paper, might not be quite ready for sales outreach. But if we can see there's multiple engagement across lots of different people within that account, then we know, that's the right time for sales to reach out. That should be in front of the sales team. They should be following up on that. And then we can also see how those accounts are engaging. And it helps us as marketers to plan our campaigns and our advertising strategy accordingly. And then finally, we're able to kind of drill down into the intent and things that those accounts are specifically researching. And I think one of the things that we care most about as marketers and sellers is who is actually researching our competitors. Wouldn't it be great to get that insight into who those accounts are? Now, this is particularly important if this is a customer that's researching a competitor and they are due for renewal. Now, that is something that you would absolutely want to flag with that account owner so that they're aware and they can react accordingly. That type of insight around competitor intent is also really good knowledge to have if that account is in an existing sales cycle with you, so that you can make that sales rep aware of that competitor landscape. They can develop that competitor displacement messaging, but you can also use that to see actually what my target accounts are researching our competitors. so that you can, again, prioritize those for outreach. You can build specific campaigns around, competitive displacement messaging. You might want to put them into an ad campaign, which sends them to a comparison page that is your solution versus your competitors, for example. So being able to really drill down into that particular intent topic, see what's really relevant to that account and act accordingly, and share all of that insight with those account owners is really key. Now, the second step, and this might be a bit controversial, is actually combining technology and strategy together. And I truly believe that you can't do one without the other. So a lot of kind of people out there will say you really need to set your ABM strategy first before you look at any kind of technology purchase. But actually, that technology will give you insight into those in-market accounts and show you all of those buying signals. So the technology, again, as I mentioned, really helps you turn the lights on to see where should I be prioritizing, who are those in-market accounts. From there, you can then set your strategy because you've got that data and insight, you know what accounts to prioritize, and then you can use technology to actually take action on that. So whether that's adding accounts to an advertising campaign because they're not visiting your website, or it might be adding them to an email nurture campaign because they're at the top of the funnel and you want to use a nurture campaign that's going to help move them through the buyer's journey. Or perhaps it's actually sending them a direct mail because they have a high level of engagement with your brand. So actually combining the two, so that strategy with technology is hugely important. And as I said, I believe that you can't do one without the other. Now, the next step is all about embracing the data. And that's a huge part of any ABM strategy. And the key thing is really about creating that single view of your account data. Now, for lots of accounts out there, the reality is that they have lots of fragmented data, particularly those kind of larger enterprise businesses that have perhaps acquired other companies over the years. They have lots of different systems. Their data is sitting in all different types across the organization, and you just don't have one clear view of accounts. And this is really vital because that key component of an ABM strategy is that alignment between marketing and sales. So you need both that single, or both of those teams need that single view of an account so that you have the same insight and you can essentially act as one team, and you're able to orchestrate those account interactions across all the different channels that you use. And more importantly, you're actually able to track the progress, track what you're doing. Is it moving the needle? Where do we need to kind of dial up or dial down our efforts? Now, the next step, and this is really key for any ABM strategy and ABX strategy, is aligning experiences across the account journey. And we want every experience that a person has with our brand to be a positive one. And we're competing for airtime with so many other organizations that we just have to stand out. And one way that we can do that is by having this insight into where that account or individual is in the buying journey at any given time, so that the messaging that we're using from a marketing standpoint and from a sales standpoint is relevant. So at Demandbase, our marketing team have gone through the exercise of actually mapping all of our content to all of the different journey stages, so that each kind of message and experience that we're serving is relevant to where that account is in that buying stage. So if they're kind of more at the top of funnel, it's going to be more thought leadership type content. Once they're in that opportunity kind of stage, it's going to be more analyst reports, case studies, references, etc. And then we also structure our advertising campaigns to mirror that same journey stage. So we want to make sure that, again, as they move through all those different journey stages, they're getting content that's relevant to them. That's really helping you as a brand build trust with that individual, with that account. And it's going to just make that interaction like worthy of their attention. For them, they're going to have that positive experience. They're going to see this is an organization that really understands my challenges, my pain points, and ultimately kind of really help drive more engagement. So the next step is all around making sure that all of our time, budget, and resource is focused on the right accounts. And this really is now more important than ever before. We're experiencing so much economic uncertainty. Budgets are getting cut across departments. We're seeing companies are making layoffs. And we're always being asked by our leadership teams to be more efficient. So actually having an account-based approach in this economy today is really going to help ensure that we're spending our budgets and time focused on those right accounts, because we're able to get all of that insight, we're able to see who's in market, and we're just focusing on engaging with those accounts. Now, the next step is activating our sales team and sharing all of that account intelligence with them and making sure that they're getting all of that insight on their accounts. And in fact, around 85% of B2B sales reps who receive alerts on their active opportunities says it helps them do their job better. You know, it's probably not a shocking statistic to anybody, but it's really, really about, again, that sales and marketing alignment and just making sure that they're getting all of that insight, not just on opportunities that they're working, but accounts pre-pipeline and post-pipeline as well. And this is an example of the types of sales insights. And this is actually an example of what we share with our sales reps at Demandbase. And it really helps them do their jobs better. And we're actually delivering this in the places that they're working. So a lot of our sales reps live within our CRM system, and we have lots of different kind of reports that we're building out, that we've built out, that we deliver to them on a weekly and sometimes daily basis, depending on what that insight is. But they're able to see any kind of spikes of engagement and intent from their accounts, those newly engaged contacts. They can see that view of all of their pipeline opportunities, where they sit within the buying journey at any given stage. They're able to see accounts that are at MQA stage, which for us is really important because we have a very high conversion rate of getting MQA accounts to become closed won. So we want to pay particular attention to those accounts, serve that up to sales, make sure that we're highlighting these accounts have been at MQA stage for X amount of days and they haven't had any sales outreach for the past 2 weeks. Make sure that you're prioritizing them this week and doing follow-up. And then we also deliver notifications via Slack when one of their target accounts is on our website. So they're getting those real-time alerts of when of that account web traffic as well. So the final step is accurate account and contact data, and this is so key. And this is, it's very, very helpful for sales and marketing, obviously, to be able to track how well that we're deepening those relationships with accounts and buying groups, and to be able to view engagement over time and to see which of our campaigns are driving that engagement, and to be able to identify which buying committee members are most engaged with heat maps and those who are not. So I use heat maps a lot with my sales team, and we'll look at it from an individual account level, from a cluster of accounts, to see, okay, we have this, this account is in an active opportunity with us. We can see that we're really engaged with the director and the manager level when we have very little or no engagement with a VP or a C level, for example. So we know, can we leverage anyone from our executive team to help really drive that executive engagement? We know there might be an executive engagement program that we want to include that account within, and it just really helps us see where we need to prioritize and focus our efforts, so that we can make sure that we're driving that engagement with those particular accounts. And finally, good contact data. That's something that all of us really want. So having that good contact and account data, so that you're able to get all of that technographic information on that account, to be able to identify, is that a good fit for my business? You can, the technographic information might be really key if you've got certain integrations with other technologies and you want to understand if they're using certain technologies, and you can kind of target them based on whatever technology that they have in their existing tech stack, and how well your solution, integrates with that, how it complements it, for example. That could be a good way of kind of segmenting accounts. Another key thing is actually at the individual contact levels, being able to identify those decision makers at those target accounts as well. So having a technology solution that's really going to help you do that is key. So to summarize, why account intelligence is really a key part of any ABM strategy. So it helps you find those good fit in market opportunities earlier. You can see what accounts are engaging with your business and which ones are not. And again, that helps you set your strategy. It helps drive prioritization for account outreach. It helps set your strategy. It helps you develop and know when to say, what to say. And it helps avoid wasted time and budget on non-fit accounts. And it delivers no more missed opportunities because you're able to get that insight. You're able to see who's in market and prioritize those accounts. All of your budget and time is spent on companies that you can actually close. You're not wasting any budget, advertising to accounts who are already coming to your website, for example. You're able to really be specific on where you spend your advertising budget, and just no wastage on the time that you spent on those wrong fit accounts. And using this, you're also able to see faster sales cycles. Oh, I think I skipped one. There we go. Just wanted to. Second, there we go. And you're also able, this kind of approach also enables you to have faster sales cycles because you're engaging more, earlier on in that buying journey. You're able to have much more influence over that sales cycle. As a result, you'll see those faster sales cycles, you'll see higher average order values and better close rates. And using this type of approach for your go-to-market strategy is really going to enable you to identify new markets, have that one view of accounts between all of your revenue teams, take action on post-sale stages to grow your business. So this can also be used for existing customers, not just net new business, and orchestrate those account plays across different channels. And revenue teams that have access to this account intelligence and take action on it are going to be the ones who are going to master this new digital buying journey. And I think you might have seen a pop-up of our ABM report. So we actually released an account-based strategies in Europe survey around March this year. So if you want to continue your learning about ABM strategies, check out this survey and you'll learn how other B2B companies in Europe are overcoming obstacles in the buyer journey and informing their go-to-market strategy. So go check that out.
Brilliant, Leanne, as always. Thank you so much for sharing account intelligence. That was awesome and very, very interesting. And we have a lot of questions here. Emma, would you like to take charge on the questions here?
Absolutely. We've gotten several questions here for you, Leanne. So Laura here is wondering, what does the future look like for fragmented data? If you were to look into the future.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely something that needs to be addressed by organizations. It's something where technology can absolutely help with that, to give you that kind of one view and kind of pull everything together. And it's really about having that account lens and having that one view of your accounts. So I would say, look at those technologies that can help you pull all of that data into one place so that your sales and your marketing teams and other customer facing teams all have that same one view of an account.
Okay. And we have another question here from Laura as well. It's sort of like two questions in one. So the first one is, what should I think about when looking into new MarTech in terms of syncing data to the tools I already have? And also second question there, what questions should I ask before purchasing a new tool?
Yeah, so I think about, let me see that I'm just looking at in terms of syncing data the tools already have. So it's obviously looking about, what platforms out there that already integrate to that. We actually have a good guide on our website, Laura, about kind of making a technology, an ABM technology purchase. So that's actually a checklist within that. So happy to follow up and send you that. That has all of the kind of questions that you should kind of cover. So that's a really good resource to check out. So I'd say go to our website and check that out.
How many steps do you have to go through when doing that process? Is it a long, extensive list, or is it?
It really differs for each organization. So it depends on how, I suppose, mature, what your existing marketing technology looks like. It depends if your organization has done ABM or not in the past. So it's really kind of looking, I suppose, what challenge are you trying to solve for? and looking at it, that way. I think that's probably the best place, is like, this is my current challenge and what are the best tools out there that are going to solve those issues for me.
Yeah,
that makes
and
sense.
also you can look into G2 or Capterra or other solution comparison sites that are really good at helping gather those info.
Yeah, and there's lots of great communities as well. There's one called Pavilion. That's a great one. It's a Slack community, and that has a lot of B2B marketers in it. And just that exact question, I need an ABM tool or similar, whatever tool. And you always get some really good insight from other people that are using those types of technologies, and they'll give you some recommendations. So yeah, get out there in the communities and ask other people in the reviews, as Jakob mentioned as well.
Great. Super. I think we have time for one more question before we have to move on. So Michael here is wondering, or he starts off with a little quote. You can lead someone to the water, but you can't make them drink. How do you overcome objections in sales? Can your sales team that might just work out of Outlook and very little else?
Yeah, that's such a common question, Michael, something we get asked all the time. So I would say, and you're definitely going to have lots of different personalities within your sales team. So you're definitely going to get some that are going to be more collaborative with marketing and more friendly towards marketing. And you're going to get the opposite end of the scale, which are, have more of a lone wolves type of mentality as well. So my advice for this is always pick your friendliest salesperson and do a pilot with them. Pick a cluster of their accounts, maybe one segment if it's existing customers or an industry, and run an ABM pilot for those accounts. And you'll start to see the results and the success and report back on that. And once they start to see the success that you're doing with other sales reps, salespeople, as we know, are very competitive. They'll naturally want to, be involved and work with you as well. So if you can test out the model, pick that friendly sales rep to start with, prove that it works, report that back, and have that person be your ABM advocate within sales, that will really help get buy-in.
Great. And Michael answers here, great advice. Thank you. And one last question. What was the name of the community, please?
Pavilion.
Is that Pebble?
Yeah, I'm gonna type something. I'll add them to the chat. And I'll also include the link to that report in here as well, so you guys can have that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's all the questions that we had time to cover this time around, Leanne. But thank you so much. And yeah.
Thank you, Leanne. I'm sure we will have you back in the future sometime more. You have so many topics we can discuss here. So thank you so much for today, and catch you in the future, some other event or podcast.
Sure. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Have a great day. Well, moving on in our schedule, since we want to keep the pace up here and not getting after, we want to introduce Jakob Hammar, who is our next speaker. And a very short interview, Jakob. Now you can introduce yourself a little bit. But Jakob is a colleague of mine. He's working here at Brightvision, and he's working as a digital strategist. And what he do as a digital strategist, among many things, is to help, of course, B2B tech companies to grow with result-driven marketing campaigns of different kinds. But you're also working a lot with starting up ABM programs and help companies start ABM and start initiatives around these areas if they haven't been in that area before, but also help companies who have come quite far down the road and are a bit more advanced in ABM and optimizing that, or creating new strategies and more advanced setups on the ABM side. So with that, I'm so happy to introduce you, Jakob, and how to build your ABM team.
Thank you.
To hear your thoughts on this.
Yes, and you can hear me?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Yes, so thank you for that introduction. And yes, I will introduce myself in a minute. But first and foremost, hello, everybody, and welcome to this session of ABM Day 2022. So yes, today I will talk about how you can think about when you build your ABM team, how you structure it in roles, and how you collaborate together to achieve ABM success, pretty much. I do talk a lot to our clients and companies out there in the B2B tech space around ABM, especially focusing on strategy and the organizational side of things. So that is what I also will talk about today. And I will talk for about 20 minutes, and there will be a Q&A, just as for Leanne, at the end of my talk. And the outline for this session is that first I will talk, give a background to ABM teams, and then deep diving into what competencies, like key competencies we see needed, and then talk about what it can look like in more mature ABM teams in terms of roles, and then talk about how you can collaborate everyone in the team the best way. But if you have a question, drop it in the chat, and I will get Emma's help afterwards to answer a few of them. But to kick things off, I don't think I need to mention this, but I do anyway. ABM, when done right, can be extremely powerful and efficient and cost efficient, especially in today, when there's a bigger need for cost efficient go-to-market strategies than ever, maybe, or for a long time at least. But the key here is that ABM done right is very powerful. ABM done wrong can be very costly as well. So double-edged sword, of course, but it can be really valuable to business, of course. What we also know is that great teams is what create great business. This is one quote from Steve Jobs, who was famously skillful when it comes to pulling together great teams, and that is an important skill in itself. So we know that ABM can be done, or it can be great when it's done right, and we also know that success comes from the individual who does things. So that's what I will focus on today, and pulling these two aspects together. So the team aspect and the ABM. ABM is a bit different, talking about ABM teams compared to, for example, a marketing department. ABM is, of course, more into, it needs to support the entire sales cycle. We need also to be extremely relevant when we talk to a target account list or a target account. We need to have a much deeper understanding, someone in the team at least, about the service or product portfolio, the customer's needs or account needs, as well as how to do great marketing at the bottom of things, so to speak. That's the foundation. And we also know that, or I've seen a lot of times that sometimes companies envision that, okay, we're launching this ABM program, it will be great. We have done all or one person have done all the research, but it doesn't really reflect in the people in the ABM team, maybe. So I think that we should be, when thinking about how we want our ABM program to look like, we need to be aware of the fact that it stands and falls pretty much of the skills and competences that you have internally or externally, but involved in the ABM team somehow. So I usually say when I talk to companies that it's always good to once in a while sit down and consider what you have when it comes to ABM, and both in terms of competencies, of course, which we will focus on more, and one way to map more clearly what competencies and skills you have internally and externally is to conduct a skill audit. That's a more structured approach to it and might give you some more insight into the skill gaps in your ABM team. It's also good to consider what you have, so to speak, when it comes to account data and insights. Companies usually have more information and data and insights on accounts than they think, because they aren't sure where to look. So really look at what you have, and maybe there's a few educational guesses that we can confirm with some third-party data or deeper research, but look at what you have today. And the same goes for the MarTech stack when it comes to ABM, that yes, there's a lot of powerful platforms out there, but it doesn't automatically make your ABM great. And especially, there needs to be someone with the skill of actually using a platform that you maybe invest in. And regardless of what data you have, regardless of how fancy MarTech stack you have, there's no alternative or substitute to competent team members. And I think that is essential to have in mind. And if we talk about competent team members, if we talk about this slide is presenting the key competences that we see are needed for ABM, and it's good to have in mind, especially if you're early in the ABM journey or if you are a company with limited resources, that you can kind of see the competences needed in an ABM team with this perspective. So management, that competency really entails the support from management that they need to back up this ABM program or pilot or initiative. And there also needs to be some objective or KPI, both on a program level as well as an activity level. And that top-down support is really important for the rest of the team to be able to do their job. The operations is, of course, much more hands-on. That's all about who can set up the campaigns, usually knows very well how the CRM and the marketing automation tool works. Preferably, there is also some data perspective on things, understanding what data we have, how we can leverage it in our account-based marketing activities, and so on. We also need to cover content, of course. There needs to be someone to create our marketing, and that can be copywriters, that can be designers, that can be one very skillful content producer. We also need to talk about channels in the sense that, okay, how can we reach the target accounts, understanding the possibilities with digital advertising as well as other channels, and someone who understands, again, with the data perspective, so we can gather all the insights that actually is in the data that is generated from campaigns and outreach. And lastly, but maybe most important, the sales competency. So this is really the buyer perspective, understanding the target accounts, the buying center, the purchase process, the needs of our accounts that we go after. So we, for example, promote the right product where there's a need for it. And of course, sales competency, something that a task that falls under there is also following up, like activating the sales team, for example, doing the phone calls, doing the outreach, doing the follow-up after activities or when we see an account that is engaging with us. And these competencies should be a part of any ABM team. And if you're mature, you who listen, when it comes to ABM, I'm sure that all these are in your team already. But for smaller companies and you who are new to ABM, this is a good starting point. And again, for smaller companies where there's not many that many employees to work with, so to speak, these 5 skill areas or competencies can be covered by 2-3 people as well. It's just good to have this perspective on things. And so that is my perspective on the key competencies that's needed. And there's, regardless of how mature you are when it comes to ABM, there will be gaps when it comes to skills, your internal skills and competencies, based on what you want to do and what you can do. There's the gap. And there are generally 4 ways to fill this gap, of course. Internal education is one thing, like information sharing, knowledge sharing within. And you can also do that education externally, courses, online courses. There's a lot of great material out there, especially around ABM specifically. And of course, if you see a gap if there's a need for copywriting, for example, yeah, there's a lot of agencies and freelancers out there that can help out in one area like that, if you're missing a clear competency like that. And lastly, you can of course hire new team members, but from an ABM perspective, that is risky, to say the least. Of course, everyone knows how expensive it can be, but it's also hard to understand what level of specialist we need to hire. Is it a extremely specialized niche competency that we need, or is it more of a general that can maybe do more things, a bit of everything, so to speak? So understanding who to hire when it comes to ABM isn't always that easy. And yeah, so there's sales, there's marketing, there's technology, there's the managerial support. There's a lot of things that should be reflected in the ABM team when it comes to competencies. But looking at it from a role perspective, and this, what we see on this slide is a more mature ABM team. These are different people, each have their individual role. Of course, maybe they don't 100% work on one ABM activity full time, but dedicated people bringing in a special or specific value to the ABM team. And the executive sponsor is what I mentioned, that competency, like that managerial support from the top management, making sure that everyone in an ABM team has what they need, like processes, but also investment in new tech and so on. And also aligning, of course, the ABM strategy with the overall business strategy. So those go hand in hand. We of course have the marketing manager or ABM manager that's more on a day-to-day basis, the go-to person and responsible for executing on this ABM strategy. Maybe also is responsible for sharing KPIs to management. The account executive leader would be the one representing the account managers, maybe, someone who has really good insight into the target account's needs. Maybe it is an account manager for a subset of accounts or one account. But that person's job is really to align the account's needs with the marketing that the ABM team executes. Then, of course, we have the SDR or BDR role in the middle that is more hands-on, that does the important research, prospecting, outreach in other channels, can gather intelligence, can be the more hands and feet in an ABM team. Maybe also responsible for following up if that's relevant for your specific ABM activity. We have the revenue operations, which is kind of a new role, but very important, I would say, especially today where more and more data is generated within a business and around account-based marketing, because revenue operations specialist is, that person's job is to understand the data that we can get our hands on, internal, for example, and really understanding what to do with it, understanding or identifying business value in your existing data. We have the marketing automation or CRM specialist that is excellent at setting up campaigns, and that is a role that should not be neglected. Understanding how to set up campaigns according to best practice in these very diverse platforms is not easy, and there's a lot to gain from visualizing data, gathering data in the right way, making it accessible to everyone in the ABM team, and so on. We have the marketing coordinator, and this is a role that is very often overlooked, sadly, from my perspective at least. So it can be a coordinator, a sales coordinator, but a coordinating role whose job is to make sure that to keep track on everything that happens, maybe around one account or within one activity, but knows the timeline, knows the different phases that we go through, maybe when we produce something, knowing what everyone has to do and bring into the ABM team in order to create good marketing. So that person keeping track of everything that goes on is really important. We also have our content creators, of course, and that list can be made long. And I also want to mention that the key to achieve, like having great people, competent people, is one thing, but if they don't really collaborate well, then it doesn't really matter. So I do want to mention sales and marketing alignment, and the sales and marketing alignment is, of course, to bring marketing and sales working towards the same goal. And ABM in itself does that to a certain degree in a theoretical level, but in practice, there's a whole other story. So I do wanted to share this list with you, because these are all activities that companies who excel in sales and marketing alignment, where sales and marketing really is one entity, even though there are different departments, that they all do. Weekly ABM meetings, sharing a lot of knowledge across different roles and responsibilities. Coordinators, again, very important. Joint ABM reports and dashboards, so we can share data, full transparency, and the same data set, regardless if there's an SDR or a content creator or a marketing automation specialist looking at it. So it's the same data. Of course, there needs to be clear processes when it comes to lead handling. That's a given. Also evaluating all activities together. And I do want to, and lastly, have an iterative mindset where you improve collaboration as you go. Yes, something is happening with my presentation here. But I also want to wrap this up with a quote, which a customer said to me a few years back. It's as simple as you think, and the ABM activity will only be as good as the people who run them. And that I've kind of kept that quote close to my chest ever since I heard it, because it was true back then, and it's just as true now. And yeah, it summarizes this presentation really. And before we go into questions, if we have time for that, sorry for dragging out a bit, but I do want to mention our event offer again, the deep dive that 10 lucky companies can be eligible for. And I think that we can get a pop-up window right about now that, click the link, sign up if it sounds interesting, and you will be able to have a sit down with me or any of my colleagues to deep dive into your ABM situation, and we can share our advice and recommendations on that. Sorry, that went really quickly. I could sit here for an hour or more, but yes, that was it for me. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Jakob. Interesting stuff there, and very insightful. So awesome. I think we have 2 minutes for questions, Emma, don't we?
Yes, we do. Let's see here. So we have a question from Michael. He's asking, if you were hiring from scratch, who would be your number 1 and number 2 hires to form your all-star team? What type of title or critical items in someone's resume would you look for?
That's a lot of questions in one, but I generally when I talk to companies hiring from scratch like that, it's usually a decision. The first hire is really the decision, because is it a strategic CMO profile that you want and need that can bring the most value to your business, or do you have that covered in your CEO or board of directors or somewhere else, and you rather would need someone who's more fluent in the operational part and day-to-day work? But if I would start, someone with the strategy perspective, who understands how to go to market and develop the long-term plan, I think that's, in the long run, that role is needed in a company. And I think if you're serious about marketing, I think that would be the first way to go, like having a managerial position in marketing for a company. I think that is something I would look for. Number two is hard, a little bit depending on what you plan to do with marketing. But if you plan to do a lot of, advertising is always important. Understanding how to reach the target audience, but content creation is just as important, maybe. So that's a harder one.
I guess it depends on the company and the goals, as you said, Jakob.
Yeah.
Maybe we have time for one last question. How do you actually do a skills audit in practice? It's been questioned in the chat.
Yes, that's a good question. I usually go about it quite structural. I have this table that I work with where I can kind of map a company's like the required skill that you need and the each role, and you can kind of rank on a scale of 1 to 5, like, okay, how skillful of a copywriter do we need? Is it a 5 that's required? And what if we would rank our employee, the dear copywriter, is that a 3? Then there's a gap there. I would say scale of 1 to 5 required and what we have today. And also one important thing to bring in there is to also include external resources in your skill audit, I would say. So you also can map your freelancers or agencies.
Great tips, Jakob. Thank you very much for a great presentation and for your answers. I think we have to move on. I saw we got a lot of great questions there, but we have to move on. Maybe we can answer them in the chat later on.
Yeah, or find me on LinkedIn or reach out.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so next up on the agenda to presenting here today at ABM Day is Alisha Lyndon, who's the founder and CEO of a Momentum Group. Alisha has over 20 years experience advising technology, professional, financial service firms on revenue growth. And she's also helping companies with key account development and marketing strategies. And she's a serial entrepreneur, have done a lot of stuff before and so forth in Momentum Group as well. And was one of the persons who was very early on into the ABM movement. In 2010, she started working in an ABM style way when she started growing strategic accounts. So Alisha, it's so good to have you with us here today. Hi, Alisha.
Great to be here.
Yeah,
Hi. Really
awesome to have you. And you're calling in from...
Great to be here.
Yeah, and you're based in London.
Yes, in London right now.
Awesome. Yeah, you're working globally.
It's a 24/7 world. It feels like it for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're really happy to have you with us, and we're so looking forward to your presentation here. And
great. Really good. Really enjoyed listening to Jakob Hammar's presentation just there on building out an ABM team. So today I'm going to be covering why I think account-based marketing needs some tough love. Really drawing on some of our research studies and sharing some insights with you all. And taking a bit of a closer look at what some of the winning organizations are doing differently. And when it comes to sales and marketing strategies, thinking about really what's resonating with customers and prospects in some of the world's biggest companies. So let me start by just giving you a quick 10,000-foot view of Momentum and ITSMA. We pioneered ABM, as Jakob said, almost two decades ago. And I think so much has shifted over the past few years in particular, that having an ABM program is just the start. The way that we look at driving sustained growth, companies are having to really embed a customer first mindset, build many of the capabilities Jakob just touched on, and also really make sure that they're understanding their markets. So we do a lot of work around consulting, research and learning services to really help our clients drive and accelerate their revenue growth. And from this session, I'm drawing on two research studies that we conduct. The first is our ABM benchmarking study. This is an annual study that we run every year with over 300 ABM program leaders and practitioners. And then the second research study I'm going to draw on is a study we've been running for a few years now, talking to the global 2000, so the world's biggest companies, to really understand how they're buying and how their suppliers and vendors are interacting with them. Before I jump into the research study, I thought it was worth framing this conversation with where is ABM today? It's interesting that we continue to see ABM as a #1 priority, and I think shown by some of the topics covered here and some of the questions that have already been asked today. And when we started 2022, 75% of the firms that we interview in our B2B trend study told us that we're planning on increasing their ABM budgets. We're just running this research report now again for 2023. But interesting to see, lots of big uptake. And looking at these programs and how they play out, we know that ABM is proving huge impact. Some of these stats that you see on this slide are incredibly impressive. ABM, we know, drives a huge ROI, which is why we're also vested and part of the movement. And we've seen on average account-based marketing programs improve reputation in accounts significantly, drive increase in relationships and huge impact when it comes to increasing revenue from existing customers, but also winning new logos. So I'd love to ask for a bit of audience participation in this next bit. ABM in 2022 is faltering, and I think there's a couple of data points that I wanted to share on why this is. Jakob talked about sales and marketing alignment just now, and in our benchmarking study, one of the questions that we ask is what percentage of firms that we're interviewing believe they've got strong sales and marketing alignment. I'd love to just get some numbers from anyone, if you just type it into the chat, of what percentage of firms do you think in 2022 have been achieving strong levels of sales and marketing alignment? Give everyone a minute or two. 20%. I mean, we've been at this for at least 10 years. ABM has been mainstream. 70%, 30%. I'm going to give you the answer. 13%. So a very low number, and particularly stark when you think of how mature some ABM programs are and how long certain organizations have been adopting ABM. So really stark data point. Second thing I wanted to share with you is we know ABM is more than a campaign. We know it's more than something marketing are doing in a dark room. And the more these programs are positioned as business-wide initiatives rather than tactical projects or campaigns, the more impact they have. So any thoughts on percentage of firms who believe their ABM program is a company-wide business initiative rather than a tactical one? 15%? 40%? Just coming in on the chat. It's actually 27%. So less than a third of organizations have embedded their account-based marketing program and strongly believe their ABM program is seen as a company-wide initiative. Well done, Suzanne. You're really close to the 27% figure with your 30% guess. So with those two data points, I think really interesting that we're seeing big gaps in sales and marketing alignment. And we're also seeing, an ABM program is still in lots of organizations, over 2/3 of organizations seen as a marketing initiative or seen as a tactic. So how can you turbocharge your revenue growth from an ABM program? There's one key thing that stands out when we look at organizations that are delivering the most success when it comes to revenue, relationships, and reputations in their accounts. And I just wanted to share what that was with you. And before I go into the answer, just to frame the discussion, we have an ABM adoption model that maps 4 stages of ABM maturity that you can see on this slide. So the exploring stage, the experimenting stage, the expanding stage, and the embedding stage. Organizations that have the most success in their programs and are really driving significant revenue growth are those with programs that are in the expanding and the embedding stages. So in that second half of the ABM adoption model. So my key piece of advice, there's not a silver bullet or a single tactic that you can do to really turbocharge your ABM program. But if you can really advance and think about the maturity of your program and how you're embedding it, that will dramatically improve your results. The longer you stay at this and the more you advance your program, the bigger impact you'll have. Then the last couple of points on our benchmarking study before we shift gears, I wanted to share with you what are winners doing differently? What are the leaders doing differently? And as part of our benchmarking study, we segment the data and we look at organizations that have high-performing ABM programs based on the results they're getting and the impact that they're seeing across their business versus everybody else that's participated. And there are two key things that stood out with the winners versus everybody who's participated in the benchmarking research. The first data point is collaboration. I know we've heard this word before, but organizations that are having stronger, more successful programs are 81% more likely to have high levels of cross-functional collaboration. They're not just working with marketing, they're not just working with sales, but they're actually working with support teams, service teams, product teams to become much more customer-centric. And the second thing that leaders are doing differently is they're sharing ideas and best practices across their organization. So ABM isn't staying on an island. It's not seen as an initiative that sits separate to the rest of the business. It's very much embedded into different business units, different product teams, different offers and go-to-market motions. So if you're thinking about how to optimize and really turbocharge your program, thinking about how you're driving up collaboration across your organization and embedding more and more best practice, sharing wins, sharing ideas. And that's not just ideas from an ABM program, but looking at some of your customer wins. What can you learn and embed into your own programs and your go-to-market strategies? So I agree with you, Michael, some scary stats there, but hopefully some insight that people can take away, and happy to pick up questions separately. I think what's really critical about any ABM program is it all starts with your customers and your prospects. And we spend a lot of time researching the Global 2000. These are some of the biggest organizations in the world, to really understand how they're making purchasing decisions. We do that through the work that we're doing, but also through the research studies. And CBX is one of our flagship studies where we talk to these organizations firsthand to understand the process they've been through, but also what sales and marketing strategies they engaged with. And there's three key things that I want to share with you from our most recent study that finished in May of this year. And this is something that we run every 6 months. So there's some key trends that we're tracking and reporting against. Interestingly, when you think about the Global 2000, one of the key things that we're seeing is it's actually getting much harder to buy. We know over the last couple of years with virtual teams, with siloed buying centers, it's becoming harder, not easier, for your customers and prospects to make purchasing decisions. But one of the biggest barriers that we're seeing to accelerating sales cycles, to getting to a purchasing decision quickly, is this need to actually develop a business case. And we're hearing from end organizations, your customers, that actually developing a business case is a real struggle for 6 out of 10 organizations. So as you think about your ABM programs and your customer engagement initiatives, think about how can you help facilitate their buying process. I know there's a lot of work and conversation that goes on around top of the funnel versus bottom of the funnel, but really think about this in terms of how can you enable your customers to do some of that internal selling and marketing on your behalf. What is that deeper business case? And we're seeing some barriers from customers on why they're struggling to build a business case. They're not getting enough ROI or modeling from vendors as they look to put projects and initiatives forward. They're also struggling to get enough internal information together, and they've got more people putting scrutiny against their business cases. So I think some key points here that I'm sure many of you can draw on, take into how you're thinking about developing your accounts. I did want to bring it to life and share one example with you. This is an organization that has spent a long time looking very critically at the hard savings they can deliver for every single type of customer that they have and every account that they're looking to target. And what they've designed on the right-hand side is they've developed a sales and marketing program that really disrupts the status quo, the general thinking in their accounts, and shows quite a provocative or different perspective through data. And they've really gone beyond high-level marketing content and provided customers with a really strong and compelling case to buy. The second change and interesting data point that I think many of us can draw on from CBX is all of your customers and prospects, they're crying out for innovation, they're crying out for collaboration. And I think we've seen a real gap in the last couple of years around thought leadership. We've seen a gap in new ideas coming to the table. But we know that accounts are willing to share information. We know accounts want to hear from vendors and partners. They want to hear from suppliers. And they've got this real appetite to collaborate more, not less, with third parties. So just think about how you're building in customer collaboration into your programs. And I think this is a great example of an ABM program that really embeds customer collaboration at its core. This particular organization run a customer satisfaction study, and they've been running a CSAT study for a long time, but they've really integrated their CSAT study together with their account-based efforts. So not only are they talking to their customers about how satisfied they are, but they're using that research to inform some of the initiatives and actions that they're then driving as part of their account-based marketing program. They're also measuring shifts in customer perception and their brand perception as it relates to the work that they're doing across their ABM program. So really creating a platform that gives your customers a voice, but then really acting on that voice as well, not just capturing it as research that gets shared internally and then nothing happens. I think a great takeaway and opportunity from learning from this particular company is they've drawn actions from their customer study and then really taken that out into the market, into their customers with key actions. For example, where a customer has said, I really am struggling with how I think about our customer data lake, they've been able to go back with, here's some points of view, here's how other organizations are doing it. So really think about how you can create that platform to collaborate with your customers, given that the appetite to collaborate is there. And then this third and final data point from CBX, I think is probably the most surprising for me personally. We've seen in the past 10, 15 years, there has been a tendency to stick with providers and suppliers that particularly when it comes to large transactions. Organizations, when they go through big change or big transformation, don't want to risk things. They don't want to go and work with providers that aren't trusted, aren't tried out and known by their organization. But we've seen a big swing in this data point really in the last 6 to 12 months. What we've seen is through our research that customers are now more likely than ever before to work with a new provider. So this data point used to be in sort of the mid 20s, late 20%. It's now at 55%. So over half of the accounts that you're targeting have an openness, a willingness to work and really genuinely consider brand new providers. And that means two things, I think. One is if you are a legacy provider or your business relies a lot on your historic customers and you have a SaaS model or a deployment that is sticky, you need to keep those customers. If you're targeting new logos, this clearly also presents an opportunity. So I think really interesting take for me. And I think this example really just brings to life how organizations are really capitalizing on that opportunity. If prospect accounts are more open to work and partner with new providers, as marketing teams, as sales teams, the key thing is how do you get cut through and resonate in really relevant and engaging ways with your accounts so that they can consider you and given their appetite and openness. And this is an example from one organization that have taken AR, the use of artificial reality, and embedded it into an experience for accounts. So rather than sharing the same old content formats through the same old channels, they've taken some of their key summits, their key events, and overlaid it with an interactive component. So any customer or prospect can dive in deeper into different types of content. They can also in this case, there's a lot of technology that this particular client provides to Formula One car circuitry, and you can actually tap in and interrogate the impact that it's having. So really providing an interactive and engaging experience to prospects that's more immersive and really opens that door rather than just adding to the noise. So just to summarize then, how can sales and marketing teams add the most value? When it comes to reputation, relationships, and revenue, think about how you're supporting your customers and prospects with business cases. Don't just think about that first touch. Let's get many of us know the MQL is dead, but let's not just get the lead in that first engagement. Really think about how you're helping your customers navigate, particularly at the back end of a buying cycle. I often talk about buying cycles being like spaghetti, being very knotty. It's part of our job as sales and marketers to help customers navigate those, and providing high quality business cases is definitely an accelerant and a way that you can help. Secondly, really think about understanding your customers, understanding those buying teams, so that you can go to them with new ideas, new thinking, but also given that kind of appetite to work with new providers, you can also engage those audiences and the broader buying teams. And then the final point, I think there's a lot of talk around content in ABM programs, personalized or not personalized. How deep do you personalize? But the key takeaway from the latest round of CBX for me is organizations need to really be thinking differently about their content that's engaging accounts. So think about your fresh perspectives, think about thought leadership that you're taking to these organizations. Think about new ideas and innovation that's really relevant for the accounts that you're targeting, rather than just communicating your proposition. So those are probably the three key takeaways that I would recommend from the latest round of CBX. I'm going to pause now for some questions, if that's all right.
Thank you. Thank you, Alisha. Really, really interesting. And thank you for sharing your reports and insights there. And scary numbers, as someone wrote
yes,
there. Yeah.
Indeed. Happy to keep the conversation going more broadly, but thought we should just leave a few minutes for questions, if that's all right.
Absolutely. Emma, go ahead on the questions there.
Absolutely. So we have one question from Robert, and he's wondering, how frequently would you advise to review the current ABM strategy and give it some tough love? Yeah. There's a couple of schools of thought. I think my main take is don't keep reinventing everything every year. Your customer, if you look at your customers and prospects, their buying cycles and how they're engaging with you, there's a level that stays the same, and then there's a percentage that changes, so that you'll get to a place, if you're trying to constantly overhaul your ABM program, that you're not really landing enough into the market or driving enough change. We typically work on a 3-year cycle, and that's where we're talking to large global organizations where they're doing a full review, but then really thinking in an agile way about your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month. What are some of the course corrections and optimizations you can make? So I would say, number one, set up your program in a way that allows you to move the needle, make course corrections, adjustments as you go, but then take a step back and make sure that you're doing that periodically enough. 3 years is a good benchmark, but you may have other events happening, whether it's acquisitions or divestments that really disrupt your customers and your market position, in which case you'd want to increase the frequency of how you're assessing your programs. Yeah, definitely. It's always good to be adaptable, I guess, depending on the context and everything going on in the world. Let's see here in the chat. Martin is wondering, let's see, are you seeing a move of buyers from more to digital online approach to buying? If so, how can an ABM approach help them?
Yeah, we did some work last year actually with McKinsey, who do a big research study on online buyer behavior, and we were just comparing and contrasting some of the CBX data. The CBX work that we do is for high value investments from big organizations. So what we're not looking at is somebody buying, ordering stationery online. It's a very different buying cycle that we're looking at. So whilst we're seeing a big shift and a big step up in terms of digital engagement, we're not seeing the entire buying cycle play out in digital scenarios. I think one of the key points that ABM teams can add a lot of value is really understanding your buyer journey and what are the moments that matter and where should you drive bigger interventions. Clearly there's also a lot of data that you're sat on where organizations are perhaps interacting with your digital properties and various content assets that can be giving off signals. And I think the Demandbase team covered earlier more externally as well. So in short, I think there's lots of digital activity happening. How much of that is really pushing through the buying cycle, particularly at the top end of large deals, is a question mark. We're not seeing deals speed up. In the past year, we've actually seen buying teams reduce slightly from 13 to 14 down to 9, but buying cycles are staying at the same length.
Yeah, awesome. And what's the future for ITSMA and Momentum? How are you going ahead next year? Will you merge, or how will you go about?
Yeah, I mean, we've been operating as one entity over the last year or so. We've got some exciting announcements that we're sharing at Marketing Vision in Boston next month. And really what we've been doing in the last 12 months is building out our consulting services, our research and learning services to help clients not just build out ABM programs, but really embed that customer first mindset, help build capabilities in their teams, and more closely understand their markets. So we're really excited about what's coming next. We also have a lot of investment that we've made in our community growth hub, which is an area and a forum where we have a lot more of these types of discussions on a regular basis around some key topics, and clearly share a lot of research studies together with frameworks and tools that people can tap into.
Exciting. So we'll check out what's happening in Boston next month then, and we'll get more info from you.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having you, and it was awesome to get all the insights there. So have a great rest of the day now, Alisha, and thank you so much.
Great. Thanks so much. Thanks, guys. See you.
Thanks. All righty, we're moving on to our fourth speaker for the afternoon here, and it's directly over to Florida, Fort Lauderdale. We have the privilege to have Arlyn Knox with us. Hi, Arlyn.
Hello, how are you? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we are even more happy to have you and to listen into your content. And how's the weather in Florida today?
I was going to say, I think we might be a little warmer than you guys over across the pond. It is a steamy hot 95 degrees here today.
Awesome. Well, so great to have you. And yeah, I was going to say that you're the Senior Vice President, Global Marketing at Blue Yonder. So very interesting. But for those of you who haven't come across Blue Yonder, what's the company about? Or maybe that's where you're going to
part of the presentation. We will get into that.
Well, I'll let you start then and catch you on the questions instead then. So
absolutely. Well, thank you again very much for having me. I really appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to sharing some of the amazing results that Blue Yonder has seen here with our ABM programs. Again, you mentioned I'm Arlyn Knox. I am SVP of Global Marketing here at Blue Yonder. And you know, folks might not know who Blue Yonder is, but you certainly have heard of supply chains over the last couple of months and years with the pandemic that we've been facing. So Blue Yonder is how global commerce is run. So how you get your morning Starbucks, your morning coffee in the morning, how you get your favorite Lululemon workout pants, maybe how you walk into Home Depot and get a hammer before your weekend honey-do list project. we truly are the world's global commerce. So everything from manufacturing to retail to wholesale distribution, service providers, and third-party logistics. We are how consumers get what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. So it is great to see how we can enable global commerce and really help save some of the supply chain issues that we have seen going on over the last couple of years with the pandemic. So it's been an exciting ride here at Blue Yonder. You know, when I first started, my parents were like, what's supply chain? And now they're like, oh, I know what you do. So it's been great to get to know and help supply chains really save the world one supply chain at a time. So let's get started with, where do we stand against our competition? Blue Yonder is the only leader in all of the Gartner Magic quadrants, and we are truly the leader across everything from planning, transportation, and warehouse. So our depth and breadth of our supply chain truly enables what I think to be a fantastic marketer's dream, right? We get to have a lot of fun working with our customers on entire digital transformations. And that's truly what's kept me here at Blue Yonder. We've had a lot of fun setting up our ABM practice. So I like to say we sort of had a crawl, walk, run, and maybe right now we're speed walking. Maybe we're about to start jogging. But where we started with ABM a couple of years ago is we were sort of managing one-off campaigns. We were very reactive with our sales approach. We had static targeted lists. We were not very integrated in a lot of what we were doing. So we've worked over the years to refine where we are. And we have a global aligned ABM team that's highly integrated with the rest of our sales, industry, product marketing, product, et cetera, cross-functional teams across our group. And we've got sort of this always on engagement experience that we're working with towards our audience across prospects and customers. We're really trying to drive dynamic content that's orchestrated across all of the touch points. And we're constantly utilizing, intent signals that we see, constantly refining our research and approach to these customers to ensure that we're giving them what they want, when they want it, how they want it, right? Just like Blue Yonder helps our customers provide to their end consumers. So it's been a lot of fun sort of moving to a very proactive approach in our ABM efforts. But we've got a lot of work to do. That's also a lot of the fun, right? As ABM constantly continues and changes, or as Alisha says, right, we got to give it some tough love. So we're constantly reevaluating what's working and how can we improve this approach. And we'd like to move to sort of, perfectly timed and automated, highly personalized journeys, working with our customers' data and research and intent signals to better predict sort of where they're going in their digital transformation, and how can our content and how can our thought leadership help them get there? How can they see us as a partner in that journey so that we're not just sort of, putting content up at them that might not be relevant or timely. So we're really looking to see how we can get better in lockstep with our sales groups and ensure that we have a key identifier to find some of those diamonds in the roughs with accounts, if you will, as well as a really, proactive and predictive approach to some of the key customers that we know we need to engage with over the next year or 2 years. I would like to say that this is a marketing, and technology conference. Most of you folks here are across some of the marketing or operations or ABM teams or field teams. So I love to show our marketing technology slide. And it's not to say that you have to have everything that's on this slide. In fact, we utilize a key group of these technology tool sets to enable our ABM activities. But for us, where we're going is to ensure that all of these marketing technologies can work in tandem to provide a well-executed and sort of well-oiled machine that can scale our ABM efforts. So for example, if we see in Sixth Sense that an intent signal is popping up in a small group of accounts around a relevant or timely topic, be it perhaps e-commerce and how that's changed, given the environment that we're in with perhaps inflation, we can see those intent signals and we can kick off maybe a Sendoso direct mailer to these group of accounts that are showing that intent, and then have a sales loft cadence kickoff to have LinkedIn messages and BD outreach and phone calls that are all timely and relevant to that intent topic that we saw, and how every piece of what we're communicating to this prospect or customer is highly, orchestrated and organized across our ABM team, so that when they land on our website, they have a custom drift chatbot discussing with them exactly what they were researching and some of those intent signals and how we can help funnel them in to a great conversion for us. You know, it was mentioned earlier in this call that MQLs are dead, and that's certainly the case, right? How can we help create bigger, faster, stronger, better converting opportunities that our sellers are able to convert at a higher rate, and also ensure that we've streamlined our process in the back end, so we're not sort of running around like chickens with our head cut off, right? That this process is scalable and that it's agile and that it's constantly learning from it. So this marketing technology stack slide is sometimes overwhelming, but I think the key to it here is to test and retest and find some of those solutions that work for you and then get them all working together. That's where we're going over the next couple of months and years to refine our process. But we also need to figure out a better way to scale it. So I mentioned a little bit, you know, when we first started, we were sort of at the top, right? We had a very intensive, from both a resource and a budget perspective, highly customized one-to-one approach. And we've learned over the last couple of years that you can take some of that high resource budget intensive work and spread it out across your funnel. And we can reach out to a wider variety of our target accounts and not be so laser focused on just a small subset of these accounts. So we've seen how we've been able to create some one to few campaign activities that, again, are honed around some of these intent signals that we've seen on a very relevant and timely topic. We've also been able to utilize it in some of our cross-sell. So for example, someone works with us in our warehouse management solutions, but they're showing intent and transportation management solutions and looking at a competitor of ours. Well, we can create a very topical cross-sell ABM campaign to those few group of customers and really see how we might be able to broaden the depth and breadth of the solutions across Blue Yonder that they're working with. And then we are constantly trying to utilize ABM to find net new logos for us. It's a huge opportunity to sort of see those diamonds in the roughs. You know, who are those accounts that are researching that have never visited blueyonder.com, and what type of targeted campaign can we execute across those accounts to really try and move the needle. But I think it all comes down to ensuring that once you do start to reach out to them, that we have a highly coordinated effort. So here you'll sort of see our end-to-end journey and how we are constantly working to integrate into the content relevant and timely materials that we're finding with some of our data, some of our AI and ML, some of our intent, so that if we execute something at the top of the funnel, we know it's exactly what they've been researching, you know, but maybe they're down to the decision phase. And so maybe we need to modify one of our ROI calculators to be very specific to who they are as an account, what their challenges and problems that they're facing. And if we've worked with them in the past, utilizing some of our own sort of in-house knowledge to make that ROI calculator an easy win for them to work with us. You know, Alisha mentioned some of that work and making sure that we use ABM across the funnel. That's certainly a great area for us to improve our own work. And I think after they purchase, we'd like to be sure that we utilize sort of ABM all the way from sort of adoption, expansion, and then advocacy. You know, we want our customers speaking at all of these industry events and sort of sharing their praises with media outlets like the Wall Street Journal or Fortune, and sharing, you know, here were some problems that we faced in our supply chain. Here were some challenges we were seeing. Here's how we were able to predict and prevent some disruptions so that you were able to get the yoga pants that you want, or you were able to get the bike for your son's birthday on time. You know, these are some key challenges that our customers are facing that we are helping them overcome, and we want them sharing their story. That for us is sort of the ABM win, right? Of course, it's great to see us close a deal, but once that ABM provider stands on a stage and talks about the results that they've seen with Blue Yonder, that's when we know that ABM has really done its job. So to sort of double click on this, how we have different content pieces across the journey, you know, again, we are making them inspirational and creative and personalized. And this is where the fun is, right? I always say that, you know, my favorite job, if I could do anything, would to be, you know, someone that's executing ABM campaigns all day, every day, because you really get to almost be a detective, and then you get to be a highly creative execution person, right? So to understand these intent signals and to dig into the accounts and see how we've been working with them in the past if they're an existing customer, or to see what else they've been researching in the market if they're a prospect, and to really utilize those pieces of information throughout this sales cycle is the fun part of ABM. And that's where we all get to see some of these results and better refine and hone our strategy as we execute again. So this right here, I think, shares some of the amazing examples that we've been able to have, and some of the fun and creative nature across the teams globally. You see whether it's dedicated landing pages with some of that key content in it, or perhaps it's highly engaging direct mailers that I mentioned we can execute if they've been showing a relevant, timely topic. It's been fun, and this is the way we can share that Blue Yonder is the leader in our industry, and is the leader and is the partner they should select along their digital transformation journey with us. What I'd like to have us dig into is more types of content, and how can we engage that content throughout various bits of them engaging or not engaging with us. So if we find that they're jumping, for example, after 2 or 3 minutes on our website, what piece of interactive content could we put up together that's highly engaging and approachable to the accounts? So I think taking some of this that we've learned over the last couple of years and improving it is another big area for us to focus on as we start to plan for next year. But it has been an exciting couple of years since we've launched our ABM campaigns, and we have seen some amazing results. I love to see every time a new opportunity is created from ABM and hear, what was it? Did we see an intent signal? Did sales come to us? Did we go to sales and say, hey, we should really kick this off? I love to see sort of what initiated those opportunities. And then, of course, I love to see what's creating the pipeline, what's getting it to suspect and above, and how are we building that 130 million in pipeline? And then what are we doing to convert that pipeline to get it to close, right? So that 60 million that we've seen close, how did we do it? What was it? What was the mix of content pieces that worked? What was sort of the highly customized, maybe microsite that we had to put together, or the solution guide, or the interactive ROI calculator? Those are some of the key areas that I think we need to make sure we're utilizing the data at our disposal to understand and better set ourselves up for success next year. But you'll see some quotes here from our sales groups that we've worked with, and how ABM is able to really drive awareness and visibility within that account, or maybe a key champion like a chief transformation officer who got that, Yeti direct mailer that we sent them, was like, wow, I'd heard of Blue Yonder, and now I'm actually going to pick up the phone and tell my team to reach out. So we know we're making a big difference. We love the feedback we get from our sales teams, but we also love the feedback we get from the industry, and I'm so proud to represent this award-winning ABM team. And it really helps us validate and sort of justify that what we're doing is right, and sitting in on some of these events and hearing about some of the challenges that others are facing, and saying, yeah, we're facing that too. And how can we come together as an ABM community to solve some of those challenges together in the future? So this team is fantastic. I can't dote on them enough, and we're hiring. So if you're looking to sort of move in your ABM career, certainly check out blueyonder.com and some of our available positions that we have in the ABM team, because we're having a lot of fun. And I think it's come down to a few key themes of our success, right? And sort of the lessons learned, if I were to look back over the last couple of years, it's really been that we have to market the marketing. We have to constantly share with our teams what we're doing, how we're doing it, the power of ABM, the results of ABM, so that at any given point in time, everyone across the sales team can say, this is what they've done for me lately, right? This is how I closed my quarter. This is how I made President's Club, because of my interactions with marketing, and in particular with the field and ABM teams. So telling your story and being as effective internally as you are externally, I think, is just as important. And then, you really truly need to make sure that you're honing in on what the account cares about. What are those signals sharing with you? What is the data sharing? What's that intent? What's the AI and ML that you're able to cultivate across all of these various touch points within perhaps a niche industry, so that you can execute a highly personalized and targeted campaign, so that you're selling them what they want, when they want it, how they want it, across the entire sales cycle. That for us has been a key win and a key sort of piece of our success. And then finally, you constantly have to sort of re-educate your teams. I don't know about you guys, but we have new sellers coming into Blue Yonder weekly, monthly, quarterly. So we constantly have to go back and sort of share with them, how can you be successful with us? We also have to ensure that you can scale, because if we have hundreds of sellers globally coming to us, our team cannot handle that, right? We have to have a very defined, very organized process to handle all of the ABM requests and ensure that we can execute with the right SLAs and the right success metrics. Because ensuring that you've got those process and procedure down only helps you get those results and get that pipeline and get that closed one. So these have been some of our key pieces of success. I would love to open it up to questions to see what the market might have. But I appreciate you guys having me today.
Thank you so much, Alisha. Arlyn, sorry.
A lot of A's, I'm used to it.
That was fantastic, interesting. And what a ride you have had developing the ABM practice in Blue Yonder. 60 million in closed revenue. That was fantastic. What a result.
We're just getting started. We hope, this is almost the end of our Q3. So I'm hopeful we get another higher number here soon.
Wow, that's awesome. And what a proof on, I suppose you haven't costed 60 million in your marketing budget spent.
No, we have not. Man, if I had 60 million, wouldn't that be amazing, right? I think that's one of the challenges is, our budgets are flat and budgets are tightening. So you really, truly have to do more with less. And that's the hard part. But that's also where the fun comes in, right?
Yeah. And how big is that of the overall marketing budget? How much would you say you channel towards the ABM programs you're running?
Yeah, so our global marketing budget, we're about 20% of ABM. We're certainly looking to invest in that in the future, and scaling down some of our tactics that perhaps are not working as well to convert. So we're sort of all in on looking across all of our channels, what's working, what's not, how can we double down and reinvest in some of those areas.
And where do you see the most efficient programs lately over the last half year? Do you see any trends, or where do you double down today?
Yeah, it's funny. I think, what was once old is now new again, right? So content syndication, where we've utilized perhaps these key accounts have been showing intent over the last 30 days. We push them into a great third-party content syndication program with a timely direct mailer. And then boom, sort of within the last 2 or 3 weeks of those highly coordinated efforts going in tandem, we're able to get into that key champion that we've been trying to get their attention. So, if I were to be sitting here 5 years ago saying content syndication and direct mailers, you guys would have been like, we've been doing that for years. But we sort of forgot about that for a while. And during the pandemic, some of those old methodologies are really working again. I'm very interested to see now that live events are sort of back, how we can integrate those into our ABM efforts and how we can create sort of niche and personalized C-level focused events. That will be certainly an area for us to see if we can get some good conversions next year, now that we're sort of fully back to in-person with most of our activities.
Yeah, and boy, have the events come back. I think there's so many events going on now.
So many. We've got 2 events going on in London today, actually. So go over to the Gherkin building and say hi to our Blue Yonder friends.
2 events at the same time. Wow, fantastic. Yeah. Well, I suppose there's a big request now for going on events of different kinds. So I'm happy to see that as well, of course.
Yes.
Okay, Emma, do we have any more questions in the chat here?
Yeah, we have several questions here in the chat. The first one is from Michael Oslin, and he's wondering and asking you, Arlyn, how do you deal with all the different buyers in one account that might be at different stages of their research and product understanding?
Yeah, that's tough. And then you sort of layer on the fact that Blue Yonder sells hundreds of solutions, right? So that's a hard one, and so I think we have to utilize our cross-functional account teams. So we're set up in what we sort of call a triad model. So we've got technical account managers and customer success managers, and we've got customer executives and business development executives. So I think we have to utilize all of the various folks that are working on that account to understand who we should be positioning and working with the various champions, buyers, at those various stages across the various different product sets that they're using. But we also pull in and sort of we're not too proud to beg, right? We pull in executive teams when we need to, product teams when we need to, someone that maybe has come from that account. A lot of Blue Yonder associates have worked across manufacturing and retail in their history. So we look at all sorts of sort of online stalking tools that we can to say, hey, you went to the same university, or you used to be at Home Depot at the same time they were, right? And position the right people going after the right champions or right buyers as best as we possibly can. So sometimes it's organizing and herding cats and babysitting, but for us, that sometimes has worked. And it's just that little connection that helps at the right time really kick off or get us to the next stage or get that awareness to kick off. So great question.
And how would you how often would you recommend to gather all these people and expertise to sort of find this shared approach on the buyer's journey and so on? How
Yeah, I
frequent?
mean, that's hard, right? Are we over collaborating? Are we under collaborating? Is there too many meetings? They're on the road. You know, that also gets difficult. I would say during the pandemic when no one was traveling, it was a little easier to get a hold of people. So we try to utilize cadences that are at least weekly and or a holistic group together monthly if we need to. There's probably a lot better way for us to refine that process, but things like teams and organizing all of ourselves across, you know, a various teams channel to be highly collaborative works for us. And ensuring that we constantly are pinging them on any various channels that we possibly know to work with that particular person. So if we know they're in WhatsApp, send them a WhatsApp, or if they like a text, or if they like a Teams. We do a great job at stalking our various members as marketers. We play that role pretty well to ensure we get what we need from them to go ahead and execute the campaign. And we don't wait. Sometimes good is better than perfect. So sometimes we get things out the door and we can refine it later. You know, we don't want to sort of come in our own way and be our own, you know, biggest hindrance. So sometimes we execute things and we say, okay, great, let's improve it later. But at least it's out the door and look at what we've been able to generate so far with clicks or eyeballs or attention to a certain piece.
Yeah. Obviously, you achieved a great success here, so you're doing something right here. For sure.
We probably move a little too fast at times, and then maybe not fast enough. So you know, it's a constant balance.
Yeah, exactly. Great. We have another question here from Emily. It's challenging to find the sweet spot of personalized enough messages to be relevant and not spend too much time finding the information that makes it personalized. Do you have some quick tips to find the balance between personalized and time/resources?
I wish I had those quick tips in the right, you know, matching sweet spot. It's hard, right? And it's really time intensive on your creative teams and on your content teams especially. So for us, we sort of have tried to take an industry approach first and then try to refine it to sort of the sub industry and or the sub personas. So we know that we couldn't execute 27 different highly personalized tactics across all of the 5 major outlets that we sell to, but let's bite off what we can. Let's get by industry, and then let's get certain buyers within that specific industry. And then where we can, let's have BD staff the chat bots so that they can then take some of those intent signals that they see in Salesforce, which is right up on their screen, and have better conversations. So sometimes you got to kind of do it in real time and on the fly, and sometimes you can coordinate to the best of your ability, at least the industry level. Like if you can start there, you know, you talk about crawl, walk, run, right? Like crawl with industry, then maybe go to persona, and then maybe get to the specific account if you're just getting started. Because it's like I mentioned when I showed that pyramid slide, that time at the top is so timely and so costly, and only so many you can execute. So start to work your way down the funnel and do some of those one to few, one to many to be able to scale this ABM where you can. Because that for us, I think we spent too long at just the top before we started to realize, okay, we can actually broaden this a little bit, not too much, right? We don't want to go back to sort of, you know, fishing with nets. We still want to have a spear and still be really targeted, but it allows you that scale and that ability to reuse some of this material and not just be so singular focused.
Mm-hmm. Great answer. Super. We have another question, last question from Robert. Many companies today struggle with determining which accounts to target and who owns the account selection process. What are your best pieces of advice for facilitating this process? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard one, right? So in sort of my past and current and future slide, in the past, we waited for sales. We said, okay, you know, sales has their territory. Sales is getting their sort of ducks in a row. We're going to wait for sales to come to us. And we waited and we waited and we waited. And maybe we had 1 or 2 sales folks that were like, okay, these are the 3 I want to go after. And it's 3 accounts that like, we didn't have buying centers for, we didn't have contacts for, we had no relationship with, and it took us weeks, if not months, to get there. So we certainly have refined that process as well. And now we look for those intent signals by certain prospects, maybe it's revenue and above in this industry, that we can group together and say, hey, sales, we're executing this ABM. We'll let you know when sort of we need you to come into it. So we've started to be very proactive now. So it definitely needs to be a mix. You have to work with your sellers. They have their target accounts. They know what they've been working. They know what would work in terms of a specific solution or topic to go after based on their relationships. but we got a lot of sales turnover sometimes. We've got a lot of folks that haven't reached out to us sometimes, and we have some of those weeks or months of perhaps dead time that we then went and became very proactive, found the signals, executed the campaigns, and created some valuable opportunities that we then started to go across the aisle to our sales folks and get them up to speed. I think that's when they realized that these guys have a seat at my table, right? These guys are the ones that are going out and proactively building my pipeline. That's when the shift really, and the light bulb really turned on with them to say, I'm going to meet my number and I'm going to go to club, because marketing just did their job above and beyond what I thought they should be doing. So for us, that's been the great process.
Super. We got another question here from Åsa. How do you find intent data? Which sources do you use? What platforms? And
yeah, we've tried a lot of them, but we're currently on 6 Sense, and we've been with 6 Sense for a little over a year now. But we tried them all, and I think no matter what you can get, and even if you have to do it by a certain topic or by a certain keyword and start with that, at least you're getting some sort of AI and ML use, right? We all know that that's going to be how we're going to up our marketing game and sort of be next gen. So for us, 6 Sense has been a valuable tool. All of our sellers have access. All of our BD teams have access. We can roll up intent signals by account in sort of weekly formats for them, daily formats for them. They can see those signals. It can fire off sales loft cadences so that activities start to execute without even them getting in the weeds and knowing that the account shared an intent signal with us. We can do niche competitive campaigns. We can execute maybe an upsell or a cross-sell or a journey to cloud campaign that we might need based on some of those intent signals. So for us, we've really enjoyed our partnership with 6 Sense, and it's been an invaluable tool for our sellers.
Great to hear. I think that was all the questions. Thank you so much, Arlyn, for answering them. And thanks for a great presentation.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Come over to Florida whenever you guys need a little bit of break.
Oh, would love to.
I would love that as well.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, Arlyn.
And best of luck on your journey as well. All right, so we're continuing in the agenda, and it's time for presenting the last speaker of ABM Day, and he's actually already on the stage, which you might know at these points. So it's Jakob Löwenbrand, the CEO and founder of Brightvision. And Jakob is also an expert in marketing for tech companies, and you have 20 years of experience of helping tech companies, SaaS companies, build and operate an effective lead generation process, both inbound, outbound, ABM tactics. So a bit of everything to spur the growth. And in his presentation today, he will talk about SDR team's role in ABM. So welcome, Jakob. I hope I got the introduction right there.
Oh, perfect. Very well. Thank you so much for staying around. And I will talk a little bit about the SDR role. So as Emma said, I'm 25 years into my role as a marketeer. I started in the mid-90s, helping tech startups, finding marketing target markets and developing marketing plans, evolving into an agency doing lead gen, and we have done outbound and added inbound over the years. And now we're a full funnel agency doing both, of course, strategic plans, outbound and inbound tactics and campaigns, and hiring out SDR teams and digital marketing teams as well, and so forth for clients. So I'm going to share a little bit of experiences, what to think about when incorporating SDRs into your ABM campaigns, because they are a key component. And I might say that it's the factor that will take your ABM campaigns to success. Because if you, as we have heard over the whole afternoon, if you don't have alignment and buy-in from both executives as well as sales and so forth, and your sales development, it's very, very hard to produce any result or that is substantial or actually turning into revenue. So account-based, just to summarize a bit, is the coordination of personalized marketing, sales development, sales and customer success efforts to drive engagement and conversion at a targeted set of accounts. It is a take that incorporates a lot of departments, a lot of roles, and it needs to get orchestrated in a good way. And the sales development is typically where we find the SDR, sales development representatives. And since we have been working with SDR roles and BDRs or ADRs or whatever SDR role you call them in your company, we have seen that finding a good cooperation between sales development and marketing, and of course sales as well, is especially important in order to follow up and be timely in how to develop leads and signals into conversions. So where are we coming from? Well, as we have heard, the MQL is dead and we have different trends coming now. So if we see a bit, maybe most of you have come from a environment where we talked about the total available market, the TAM. It's still very common to present your TAM if you're a startup or a scale up, and present for the investors because they want to see a big TAM. But we, as marketeers who want to drive revenue together with our sales and sales development teams, maybe TAM isn't that most important figure. I mean, for an investor, they want to see that there is some leverage here. But we want to sell to the most proposed, to the prospect that are most proposed to buy from us and less likely to churn from us. So we want to talk about ideal customer profiles instead. Instead of producing hundreds of MQLs and hopefully converting a few of them to SQLs and hand them off like a baton, we have a much more integrated cross-functional execution today, just as Alisha and Arlyn talked about here lately. And instead of doing marketing and sales development in silos where we have quite little cooperation, we need to take a soccer team approach today. And for those of you who don't play soccer or have kids who play soccer, it's a very team-oriented game, as most team sports. But everybody needs to take responsibility for different functions, defense, offense, and so forth. If you're a fullback, you cannot only think about the defense. You need to support the attacking parts of the team as well in order to score and to defend and so forth. That's how marketing and sales development needs to work these days. Random facts of lead generation, maybe that's a tough word, but what we need to do is to find orchestrated frameworks based on campaigns and so forth. And what is important to measure from an ABM perspective is not how many MQLs we have produced over the last month or so, but how many of the target accounts or the most important accounts that we're looking after have we got engagement from, have we got intent from, and so forth. So that's the most important part, so we can hand them off to sales. So I'm going to give you 5 tips around how incorporating SDRs into ABM campaigns and viewing a few different factors that might be interesting to think about. And the first tip here for marketers is to give the SDR team a campaign framework so they know how to use what kind of campaigns and tools and content for different roles of the campaigns they are doing. And SDR is working constantly on different accounts. It depends on, of course, what kind of company you are, how many target accounts you're working on, and what the definition of the SDR role is. Is it only one to few or is it one to many? But overall, an SDR have probably somewhere around 50 to 200 accounts that they might work on. In some cases, even more. In some cases, even less. But that's probably somewhere in the middle. And we have different accounts that we work on, and some SDRs have specialization for net new accounts or strategic accounts. Some are more working towards existing clients and so forth. But as marketeers, to support them so they do their best job and being efficient, because that's an important thing as an SDR, to be efficient. We can, you're seeing all these research that says that a salesperson is usually only spending 22% of their time selling in a normal day, because they are dragged into meetings, they're sitting here, want to give feedback on that, and everybody's doing pretty much everything without doing actual sales work. And that is a real problem in every sales role, including the SDR role. So we need to be clear, what is it they're going to do with their accounts, and how can we help them set up frameworks with campaigns and supporting content and all the different supporting things that we want them to have, like direct mailers or email cadences, intent data, and all kind of that, so they know exactly what to do every day they come to work. And these are 7 basic campaign topics that you can provide to them when it comes to different things they are going to work on, depending on which role and SDR exactly. But the base demand gen part of ABM, where we're working with companies and target accounts that are not yet clients to us, we can do pre-targeting. That's not so much for the SDR, but rather for you to help the SDR to be efficient. If we're planning a ABM campaign for a certain vertical and they're net new clients, we haven't done a relationship, we're going in cold, we're doing outreach in different channels, please start a pre-targeting campaign a few weeks before, where you give them some air cover on LinkedIn advertising, etc., etc. So you push your brand and your content and so forth a little bit before they start calling in and emailing in on LinkedIn, working the contacts in those accounts. That's very, very well invested time from marketing perspective. Account nurture, that's the base campaign. That's what we typically do with nurture email flows and content flows and direct mailers, etc. Lead to account nurture, we have inbound marketing as well, and the difference between outbound and inbound is that somebody signs up a form and hey, here we go. If that somebody is actually within the target account, then we can start a bolt-on ABM campaign and say, as you know, today a complex sale typically involves somewhere around 5 to 15 persons, since we have so many people waiting in on decisions, etc. So if only one lead contact you, you need to broaden that space, and you can go backwards and do a lead bolt-on ABM campaign on that inbound lead coming in, and helping the SDR to find more contacts to work on and to expand that lead into a great ABM micro campaign. We have the typical pipeline acceleration and wake the dead campaigns with the existing proposals or deals that might go to a slew or that you have lost previously. And one important thing that I think most companies maybe neglect, and what is becoming more and more important these days when we might go into the recession and a slower economy, renewal and upsell ABM campaigns and land and expand ABM campaigns, where you already have a foot in the door, you have a client relationship, you have something to show for and build trust around. And I'm coming back to those later on. I need a bigger list. That's the problem for SDRs. SDRs is by definition quantitatively driven. We have to be productive, we need to have things to work on, to email, to contact over LinkedIn or SMS or phone, whatever channel the SDR is working on. We need to have a bigger list. And that is a contradiction in terms related to ABM, where we want to be very selective and don't spread too thin or just work too quantitatively. So what we need to do is to use some kind of ideal customer profile definition and be very, very clear on where are our verticals, where are our sweet spot companies that we want them to spend time on, and not only flow through them as a company in the big list. We want to communicate to them, here is these companies are really important to us. We think they have a great fit to what we can offer, and we want you to spend time on numerous of the buyer personas within that account, and they are really having a good fit. And then we can provide them on top of that with the intent data that we'll get from 6 Sense or Demandbase or other sources, which also can guide them in the micro parts on which to prioritize and so forth. But we really need to be very clear to them and say, in combination with getting acceptance from sales and so forth, but it always is hard to be totally aligned on that. But we need to have ideal customer profiles, and we need to prioritize which things we should work on, how much we should work on it, and what kind of approach we should take, so we can give them direction around what to prioritize and what not to prioritize. So moving on there, one way to do this is tiering. I think tiering is maybe one of the newbie mistakes that some companies do that are not tiering their target accounts, but rather having just a big list of target accounts that are pretty good or pretty not. Maybe not all of them are so good. So working the target data and the account selection, using different data sources in order to decide on that, both of course what you're probably going to, based on your existing successes where you win most likely new businesses, and also which client stays the longest, which are feeling the most value from your products or services, and combining that with the demographics and firmographics and buyer personas and so on. And you can quite soon get a good list of target accounts that you presume will be quite effective to work against. Then you start prioritizing them and start tiering them and 1, 2, 3, so you can give instructions and also building a dashboard so you can follow up on this very effectively week in, week out, and keep the pressure up so we don't stop working on the most important ones, because we can tend to try to drive result in order to look good internally, or just filling our numbers, whatever we have. So you need to be certain that the SDRs understand what is priority, what is not, what is tier 1, what is tier 3, and so forth, and how much time should we spend on each tier, and so on. And that is an example of a company we talked with previously was that they had way too big definition. They were working with the total available market definition, the TAM, instead of using ICP. So if you haven't implemented ICPs in your company, where you say, this is a definition of an ideal client profile for us, and this is a vertical we're really strong in. We have good customer references here. We have a lot of brand recognition. We're doing a great job for a bunch of clients within the vertical and so forth. And that could be an ICP vertical you go after. So what we help them do is to find a few ICP verticals where we could be really, really effective. We didn't go super small or one-to-one or one-to-few, but rather finding a good vertical. And that helped them a lot in their sales efficiency, driving leads and booked appointments and SQLs they could hand over to account managers. And from there, they could take it. So ideal client profile, target customer list. And in this case, we also tiered the accounts. So we had the really most strategic ones, and then we have the vertical campaigns, and then the broader inbound kind of random bolt-on ABM campaigns and so forth. And a quarterly vertical campaign. Each quarter, we did a campaign for each vertical that highlighted some new nuance, a case, a research, an insight, a webinar, something to tie it on. So we continuously promoted our expertise or the client's expertise in that area. Another one is to make it easy for the SDRs to personalize every touch. This is something that sucks a lot of time for SDRs and is something that is also very complex, since you have a trade-off between, should I contact 10 companies and do it more templatized, or should I put a lot of time into contacting one and try to hit that sweet spot and the bullseye and being really, really specific and personalized and commenting on his background on LinkedIn and say, yeah, I also have a nephew who lives in that city, and putting time into that. What's the trade-off and how can we be smart about this? Because what everybody knows is we don't want to have generalized information, templatized, generic emails where you feel, this is probably something automatic. So personalization is working, and it's working really, really well. And we need to use that, especially in SDR outreach and so forth. So this is just a simple overview of high-tech versus low-tech reach-out channels, and low-touch, high-touch, where you can do automatic low-touch campaigns like print advertising, or just sponsoring things, or invitations to bigger events and things like that. Or doing high-touch, which is personalized videos, where you record something, you do well-researched email. You write something and send something that you put time into, which is a high effort, high touch. It's working really well, but you don't have all the time in the world to spend on that. So we need to try to find those levers. One way to do that is to put the tiers in this way and actually give some kind of guidance where we say, okay, we have a tier 1 here. We think these are really important. We have 14 accounts here per SDR. And we have 2 sales guys in the background who can support you and who have responsibility to take those and turn them into clients. And we want to do customization and personalization of every outreach. And we want to do 20 minutes research per touch. So when you write an email, it should not take any less than 20 minutes. So you actually do a very well-researched email or well-researched phone call outreach, or when you connect with them on LinkedIn and so forth. Do your research, but this is a guidance on how much time to spend on that account. Tier 2, maybe it's less, more companies, less perfect, less strategic in terms of their attractiveness as a client. And then we have a bigger, broader definition of the rest, where we have more tier 3 kind of bigger list, where we don't spend so much, maybe 5 minutes. Maybe it's more of a templatation. Maybe we use technology in order to be personalized, like, hi, first name, and things like that. So we can also be a little bit personalized without spending any time at all, or at least very, very little. So please give guidance for your SDR team so you save time for them and helping them being effective, helping them prioritize which account to spend time on, to be really diligent in their outreach, and which to be more templatizing and just moving on, so to say. So building this little bit of orchestration, SDR marketing relationship might help you. So you can build something similar to this. So you do have a map and help your SDRs to understand what are you doing in marketing and what should they do and how's the interface is working. Should they wait for you? Should you wait for them? When is what going out? So you have a map and a process schedule here. Okay, we offer you air cover, and we deliver a LinkedIn ads campaign 2 weeks prior your kickoff for the next vertical campaign, and so forth. So that needs to be clear and it needs to be orchestrated. And I think it's marketing's job to instruct and to give the SDRs that background and give them the support they need in order to be efficient. Expansion SDRs. One area where we want to see much more SDR work being done today, which is typically left to the account managers only, is existing clients. And I think these days it would be so smart to invest more of your sales and marketing and especially SDR time into existing accounts in trying to play the land expand game a bit better. So this was a funnel I showed before. It's originally from Topo, but we really like this funnel and use it sometimes when setting up funnel campaigns for clients, as well as referring to different stages here. But the expansion after closed one, you need to go back and work with the engagement of that account and try to have different things. It's so easy to forget the land expand and the upsell cross-sell campaigns that are so important these days, because you need to hold your clients by the hand really, really hard the coming 2 years probably in order to keep them on board, make them engaged, and also not getting them to spend less on your services or your products and so on. So try to invest in those programs and try to find good things to do them well and to instruct your SDRs to, maybe one should be specialized if you have a team of SDRs, so you can actually get them to target on the existing ones and only do the land expansion campaigns together with us. And it can involve things like this that we typically discuss when we are helping clients setting up land expand campaigns. Like, what key themes do we actually want to discuss with those existing clients we have? Stories, evidences, cases, etc. So we need to have a discussion around this. We want to produce content, presentations, copy, white papers. Maybe it's a roundtable for VIP clients or something like that. Could be interesting for them as well. And then start the multi-channel program outreaches, including a bit more things like the exec outreach, which we typically see at existing client campaigns, but not maybe so much on tier 2 and 3 at least. Maybe tier 1 campaigns have exec outreach as well. And lunch and learn is a great way to spend time with your clients as well, if you can showcase your competency and things like that. So spending time here on existing client accounts is often very, very profitable from a marketing ROI perspective. And if you do highly customer targeted orchestrated campaigns, this is just a short example, but we created together with the clients a hyper targeted custom program where we try to reach individuals with a personalized message based on, of course, the campaign content that we have delivered before. And we increased the open rates of emails and touch points from 20 to 25% to 40 to 60%. And if you have great copy together with great content and a good value pitch, that is definitely possible for most offerings. I would say that is, pretty good. and this was a very successful campaign. And of course, you need to coordinate this with the SDRs and get them on board. I won't talk too much about the tech stacks, but we need to give the SDRs the tools they need in order to be effective as well, since lousy data, lousy tool stacks takes also a lot of time, and you can spend a lot of time just flipping around applications and trying to coordinate what you have done in different systems that don't talk to each other and so forth. So I don't think you should buy too many stuff if you're in the beginning of this journey, but you need to offer a few of the most critical ones. So at top of the CRM system, you need to have some kind of a sales engagement platform where you can dial and email cadences really effectively. If you're in the HubSpot area, HubSpot Sales Pro is really, really good and a good starting platform. If you're more advanced, maybe you want to look into Salesloft or Outreach or things like that. There's a bunch of solutions that are pretty good, all of them in the sales engagement area. But you need to train your SDRs to be effective when setting up those, and it's an application competency you need to have. You also want to have a platform where you can, from the same system, interact with LinkedIn and do connects and in mailing from the same platform. You do emailing and the rest of the SDR work, so you can have a more complete dashboard and cockpit, so to say, from where the SDRs are working. You also want to have analytics and maybe personalized video. Personalized videos is nothing you can have for everyone, but for great personalization, it might be a good complement to a lot of things. So that is just keep it simple, start small, don't go over the top buying expensive software if you're not mature enough to use it, so you don't spend money on the wrong part. But you probably feel when you should upgrade your tech stack, and if you need more intent data, for example, from Demandbase or 6 Sense or something like that, you can add it to it so you can be even more effective, because that's really great data to add into a tech stack for an SDR. Okay, and just a small discussion here as well, since we have a lot of clients who is in this area of, should we hire everybody and run our own SDR team in-house, or should we outsource it? Well, it depends a little bit on who you are, what resources you have, and what's your time to market requirements. If you're expanding really quickly and the scale up, and you want to show your investors, yeah, we're expanding really aggressively now, we're in those countries and so forth, a European SDR team, it takes a lot of time to set up, for example. Then it makes sense to outsource. You might also maybe have a test campaign or a test product or a new product you want to go to market with that is a bit parallel with your other offerings and so forth. That's also a really good case to outsource and so forth. Or if you're totally new and haven't anything in place, but think, yes, we need to go in this area, that's also when you should outsource and invest in this. But if and when you're in the long term, maybe you can take it back in-house at that point as well. But we do have a lot of in-house clients as well, where we support them with parts of their team or actually whole of the team as well on a remote hired basis as well. And the fine thing is outsourcing gives you both the SDRs, of course, but also, if you need it, a tech stack competency with RevOps competency, data analytics competency. We can fill up the data really well from different data sources, as well as sales coaching and SDR, best practice coaching, so forth. So that can be a good way to accelerate your SDR team practice. So to sum it up, just a few tips then. Develop great campaign frameworks based on the 7 different ABM strategies, so you can guide your SDR team to work on the most important parts and do it strategically with your campaigns in the back, so to say. And you can launch new campaigns regularly based on different parts of this 7 concepts. Develop your ICP and tier your target accounts so they know exactly who are the most prioritized one. Where should I spend my majority of the time, and who should I be more templatizing, and who should I spend really much time personalizing? And also help them personalize by offering them data, as well as insights, as well as good smart technology. Build an effective small tech stack. Don't go too big. Don't make it complex. Start small. Help them with incremental improvements in order to save time, be smarter, don't need to work harder. Don't forget expansion campaigns towards existing clients, especially this year, and make sure at least one of your SDRs have that as a responsibility to do land and expand campaigns and upselling campaigns, so we can support the account managers. It's of course the account manager's primary responsibility to drive their accounts, but more times than not, they don't have time to do land and expand. They don't have time to upsell or cross-sell that much, even though that's what they primarily do have time for if they are doing their job properly and don't have too many accounts. But land and expand is really many times the one that nuts getting done. And also outsource to increase speed to market and reduce risk if and when it applies to your situation and needs. And I'll be happy to talk to you about an outsourcing case if you're in that situation. Thank you so much. That was all I had to share in a few short minutes here. We have time for a few questions there, Emma.
Yes. First off, thank you very much for that, Jakob. Insights, and interesting to hear your thoughts around this important topic. So let's have one last Q&A session. We have one from Robert here. How is target account pipeline measured / quantified? And what benchmark would this be compared to say it is successful?
Yeah, it's well, you can have, there's different schools and different tools that measure different things, so it's not a straight answer. But I think what you want to know is how many of our accounts that we work on are target accounts. That's an important part. If you only do normal demand gen, I would say that figure is probably sitting around somewhere around 15 to 25%. If you do ABM really well and you prioritize more of your resources towards ABM programs, I would say that maybe 50 to 60% of your engaged accounts that you're working on are target accounts based on your work to engage with them. And how do you, so one important topic is to just understand how big chunk of our accounts we spend time on are actually target accounts based on our ICP definitions. That is a good start, I think, to just understand that. And then of course you can measure engagement of these accounts, and there's different engagement measures depending on what kind of data and tools you have. But just measuring some basic interactions, are they spending time on our landing pages, are they opening our emails, are they taking our phone calls, are they connecting with our salespeople on LinkedIn, and so forth. So if you have a system that can gather that data and present in an overview engagement in some kind of numeric. I think that's a great start to measure your ABM efforts.
Great. And then we have another question. How can the SDRs share insights back to the marketing team to make the buyer's journey even better?
I think that's quite simple in terms of, somebody needs to call to a meeting and ask them. And I think, it's not that hard actually, but many times the silo effect of how organizations work makes it hard to do that. Maybe there are conflicting goals. So the manager, one step up on the need to align incentives so they actually want to spend time together, so they don't chase different numbers. And if they do that, I think it's very easy to just have a weekly or a bi-weekly check-in for 30 minutes where the ABM marketeer driving those campaigns and the SDRs working on those campaigns can just sit in and say, hey team, how's it going? Are we moving things ahead, or are we stuck? Or almost like a scrum meeting, but maybe not on a daily basis.
So it's all about having that transparent communication throughout the whole process then.
Yeah, and building a culture of teamwork.
Yeah, great. Jeroen is wondering, what would go against running status quo setup alongside an ABM setup? So I guess he's referring to the old version, the old way of doing it alongside the ABM approach, or how do you understand that question, Jakob? Maybe everyone can clarify the question, or do you?
Let's see here. Alongside, I'm not really sure what's referring to, but my guess is that should you as I understand it, should you leave the old status quo behind and only go full on ABM? Well, it depends, of course, of the situation. And I mean, for some companies that might have targets, I mean, ABM is specifically for high value offerings. And if you're more of a mid value offering or low value offering, demand gen in general is probably a smarter way to go. So it depends on who you are and what you're selling and what the cost of a sales is and so forth. So of course, ABM is not right for every company, even though I think being niching down and trying to be relevant is something everybody needs to work with in some capacity. But if you have a very broad and broad offering with a low ticket sale, you should do that digitally, so to say, and not spending time with SDRs or building up a big sales organization around this. So maybe that was
hopefully that was the answer to the question. But yeah, that makes sense. And then we have one last question from Michael. Do you use chat for your SDRs to connect when those key accounts are visiting your site?
Yes, absolutely. And there are a lot of good chat solutions. However, we haven't seen any tremendous interest in chat solutions. There were probably more buzz around this 2 years ago or so when there was some chat providers that did a really good job to incorporating their solutions into the SDR tech stack. I think it's still something you should offer on your webpage. And I mean, we want to drive people there in order to connect with them and so forth. And if you have a well set up process, you could almost automate it, since the chat bots are really smart these days. So I'm not so sure SDR should spend too much time on the chat or monitoring the chat. I would rather say spend some time up front configuring the chatbot so it converts into leads that the SDRs can be quick to follow up on afterwards. That somebody have made a hand raiser or asked for some info or asked for a pricing, so you can be quick handover to an SDR and they'll be on the phone within 5 minutes to that prospect. I think that is the key part of using chats rather than having them supporting the chat in itself.
Great. That was all the questions that I had from the Q&A. And Michael Lenzer's got it. That makes sense. Super to hear.
Wow. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for listening in. And it was so good to host this event today. And Emma, we do have more content for those of you who are really hungry to learn more.
We do. We have a whole insights library on our webpage where you can check out ebooks. We have a range of different blog posts that are related to B2B tech, all of them. And you can check it out there. I sent out a little CTA offer that you can click on, and it will lead you to all the great content that we have. Yeah, so that was everything for today.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for staying around. I hope you all have got a few new ideas this afternoon. That's what we wished for. And thank you so much for all the questions and interaction. Love to have you here. And hopefully you will check us out in our upcoming events later this fall. And I wish you all a great day.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye, everyone.